Does anybody have any questions, additions, or deletions to the minutes?
Move to accept as presented.
Okay. Mary Louise moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Reggie second. Is there moved and properly second? Everyone in favor of approving the minutes from the February 9th meeting, say aye.
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 All right, perfect. Okay, so guys, today is a working meeting where we know our committees have been meeting. Some have some meetings coming up, but have some preliminary information. So I wanted to kind of dive into these meetings, the reports from the committees. Before we actually do that, just wanted to talk a little bit about where we are, because I do think that we are at the appropriate point in our work after we talk about our committees and the committee goals today, to put all of this together in some kind of interim report to City Council. And so wanted to just reiterate and make sure everybody understood kind of where we are right now. So right now we do have a definition that there's consensus around regarding what affordable housing is. Affordable housing is the continuum of equitable, inclusive, and quality rental and homeownership opportunities for people at every income level, which is critical to creating safe, complete, and thriving communities. We also talked about having a goal. We want to settle on a goal for 2022. Our discussion after much conversation was we will use 2021 to actually look at what is being added or rehabbed and returned back into the market. And then once we analyze 2021 with benchmarks, we can look at a goal for 2022, 2023, and 2024 respectively. So that is where we are. Does anybody have any questions on that, or does everybody feel comfortable that that kind of lays the groundwork for the overall part of our work? And now we're going to talk about specific committee goals. Okay. All right. So with that said, and did Julianne join us? Okay. So Julianne is not on yet. I know the Accessibility Committee has met at least once. I don't know if there's been an additional meeting, but there were some conversations regarding understanding some of the challenges for access to affordable housing. And one of the things that we talked about there is making sure that we have a diversity of housing. So I think really completely goes into our definition when we talked about complete and thriving communities, because we talked about there's a need for seniors that are on fixed income. There's accessibility issues that come with aging in place. There are accessibility issues for those who are physically and mentally disabled. We also talked about the accessibility barriers that are presented based on our returning citizens, formerly incarcerated people who are returning to society, and there are barriers there. So those are kind of some of the areas that they've identified as accessibility issues that they'd like to delve deeper into, and what some of the solutions can be as far as making accessibility to affordable quality housing a reality for people within the special populations. I did want to ask, based on that brief report back, does anybody have any other thoughts of accessibility issues that we are not, that the committee is not looking at right now? Okay. All right. So if not, I'm going to go to Mr. Barner and the Finance Committee. And Reggie, I think I dropped the ball on Gloria, and I were texting over the weekend. Gloria is going to be your staff support for your committee. So moving forward, that is who you can coordinate with from the staff perspective. But I know, I think you and Brian have talked, and so you have a report back for us.
Yeah. So one of the things to make a thank you that we wanted to kind of get an update maybe from you and Gloria, and not necessarily today, but we can kind of identify for the next time. I know a couple of years ago, City Council worked and passed for the local tax, affordable housing tax credit or tax abatement program. And I know that that went to the county for some collaboration with the county. And so maybe if we get an update on where that stands locally within the community as well, because I know in order for that to really go into effect, the county had to adopt some legislation there as well. And so I kind of don't know where that stands, because I know that that too within itself could be a major benefit to affordable housing development from a financing standpoint in the community as well. Okay. Some of the things that Brian and I kind of briefly talked about, and kind of want to go back to and mention for the good of the group, looking at some communities are now, and I know that I'm working on another project, and a private investor fund from a social impact investment standpoint is looking at a project that we're working on somewhere else. And so one of the things that Brian brought up potentially is a social impact bond program or a social impact fund where private investment or private investors invest. And so they typically get a lower return on their investment with those type of programs than they typically do. So in most cases, people are looking for a double-digit return from an ROI standpoint or IRR standpoint. But when they look at a social impact fund, they're looking at the benefit of the cost of their return as well as the benefit that they're making in the community. And so as we continue to go forward, maybe we can have some discussion around, potentially looking at the development of a social impact fund for the Midlands area or within the city. And so that was one of the items that we wanted to kind of mention for the good of the group from a financing tool standpoint as well. The other option or that we want to consider from a financing standpoint that I mentioned for the good of the group, and I know the city of Atlanta passed one during 2020 where they created a local fund bond program that's supported by the city. So the city of Atlanta did an affordable housing bond program, and kind of don't know what the appetite is there in Columbia potentially for a bond issuance program related to affordable housing. One way that we can potentially maybe tackle that, and you all may already do this, and Gloria, when we talk, she may provide some additional information. I know some cities through their special option sales tax, the 1 cent sales tax program, that they're putting some affordable housing mechanisms into their 1 cent sales tax programs as well. So there are different initiatives that are helping to support affordable housing through the SPLOSH programs or the 1 cent sales tax programs that we can incorporate into the program. The other thing that I want to mention that's been around for a long time, I know a lot of communities don't necessarily want to look at a tax increment finance district or a tax increments financing, better known as a TIF. But one thing that we can already facilitate is utilizing the multi-county industrial park legislation. And what that basically does, for lack of a better word, is industrial, whenever a new company is coming into the city or the county, generally what ends up happening from an economic development standpoint, they partner with an adjoining county and create what is called a multi-county park. And then, so when you look at the tax revenue, when an industry comes in, they basically give them a tax abatement for a 10, 15, or 20-year time frame by creating this multi-county industrial park. In some cases, you can utilize that. It's not widely utilized because a lot of people don't think about using it from an affordable housing standpoint, but we can utilize the multi-county industrial park legislation that's already in place to be able to create affordable housing and use that as a mechanism as well. And then another thing that Brian mentioned that happens in Ohio that I thought was pretty unique is the state, which in this case we could potentially tap into the city or the county, but the state created a program there where the unclaimed state funds, the affordable housing aspect can tap into the unclaimed state funds, and that goes into a fund that helps to create affordable housing and even is used to leverage low-income housing tax credits to kind of fill as additional gap financing for low-income housing programs in Ohio. So once again, that's another tool in the toolbox that we can potentially look at. I know that a lot of communities have land banks, so we can look at the continuation as we have discussion this year on in and around creating a land bank. There's a lot of vacant property, and we talked about that on the other meeting before. There's a lot of infill lots in the city that maybe with the city support, we can tap into a lot of those. And when people think about building affordable housing, even from a tax credit standpoint, we always think about it in the sense of having a 4-acre tract or a 5-acre tract to build one single development. But what you can do is kind of take those lots and rezoning and be able to create multiple affordable housing in an apartment complex style, and utilizing that by taking advantage of a lot of those infill lots and still develop it as one development, but build it in infill lots opposed to trying to piecemeal it with one house at a time, where we can be able to create more housing at once by taking multiple lots and creating one development, utilizing multiple lots as a tool there. The other, and lastly, the other thing that we kind of talked about briefly, and I looked into, is creating an affordable housing impact fee. And that is where an assessment at the city and county level is on new residential and commercial development. And so that assessment fee, that affordable housing impact fee, is added on for commercial and residential builders that are building new units, and a portion of that will then go into a fund that can help create affordable housing. So that way you don't necessarily have to have an inclusionary zoning requirement that they build some affordable housing in their developments. However, if you build within the city, if you have that affordable housing impact fee, a portion of those fees that are paid would go into a fund that can be designated to help create more affordable housing in the community. So those are some of the things that we kind of talked about. Tamika, I will provide you a written narrative of all of those things that I just mentioned that can be included and we can have on record as we go forward this year with our planning process of different initiatives that we can look at from a financing standpoint. I do want to mention that, last year, a lot happened, even with COVID, a lot happened. And so I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that, the passage of the legislation that allows nonprofits and housing authorities to be a part of developments. And if they have a major contribution or participation of ownership, those properties can get a tax reduction or tax abatement. And then also the benefit of the state tax credit program. If you don't know, with the advent of the state tax credit program, and at the end of December, with the 4% credits being at a floor now at 4%, that has created more interest in South Carolina. We have more developers from around the country coming into South Carolina, focused on the bond program, the 4% program like never before, not just in Columbia, but all over the state. And so a lot of people have an interest in this state now because of the state tax credit program.
Awesome. Thank you, Reggie. And you're right. I've talked to several of developers in the last 2 weeks, and all of them have mentioned the 4% and just the newer incentives. But I think the work that you guys have done have been great. And I apologize. I think another kind of dropped the ball. I think Chris is supposed to be on your committee. So moving forward, we'll make sure that y'all tap in Chris for these conversations as well. But I think great report. And And I actually have a friend in the governor's office in Ohio, so I will reach out to her and get more detail on that unclaimed state funds. I've talked to Treasurer Loftus a few times, and he touts how much money we have in unclaimed funds and how he's trying to get it back to people. But I know that if there is a potential for any option for that to be used, that would be great. So I'm going to open it up, see if anybody has any questions or comments for our financing subcommittee.
I do, Tamika.
Okay, Jim?
Yeah, and if you could include me on that committee, I'd like to be a part of that also. Okay. Just a quick question to Reginald and Brian. Was any consideration given to supporting a countywide trust fund for affordable housing?
Yeah, Jim, we've talked about that before, and I'll more related to a local trust fund, and so I'll add that back to that list.
Great, thank you.
Sue, were you going to say something?
No, I just was going to say these are some really interesting, and I really appreciate the report. That's all I was going to say. I think there's some really good options here.
Anybody else have any questions or feedback for the financing subcommittee? No. All right, well, thank you. Great work, gentlemen. I appreciate that. And Patrick and TK are on here as well, as Gloria as your staff support. So one of the things that we can do between now and the next subcommittee meeting for you guys is any additional research or legal opinion on what is currently available, what is, might need slight, legislative support, and then what might really need a lot of education and lobbying to get done would be helpful as well. So we'll do that too. Thank you, gentlemen. Okay, so next, Sue and Lala Anna on the legal and zoning.
Lala Anna, you want me to start?
Go for it. I know that we talked, so we're sharing the knowledge today.
Yeah. We are meeting later this week, and I apologize. We have been a little bit slow in going, partly because I have been more focused on.
You've been a little bit busy at the State House. I said you've been a little bit busy at the State House. We understand.
Yeah, and also been working, dealing with statewide a lot of the eviction problems that folks are facing, and so I apologize for that. And but Lila Anna and I are going to have a meeting on Thursday, and we've really looking at two particular issues. One, while development of housing is really critical, we in Columbia have an eviction crisis, and we want to talk further about the eviction problem. What we need to do, not just and I shouldn't say not just because of the pandemic. I mean, obviously the pandemic has exacerbated what was already a problem here in Columbia, but some mechanisms that one of them that I've been working with the Columbia chapter of the NAACP, and I want to thank the city for giving resources. I believe Councilman Davis, you've been critical in that, getting resources to the Navigator project, but to be thinking about how do we address the issue of getting people the assistance that they need, as well as about what we need to be doing about funds. Because while it's an eviction crisis for the tenant, it also can sorely impact landlords, especially those who only own one or two properties. And then, Lila Anna, if I misstate this, you feel free to correct me. But in the zoning piece, we do know the city is looking at zoning issues, but what we specifically is addressing zoning issues is what's getting in the way of affordable housing. And obviously, there's some things that we want to look at that there have been some innovative things that have been happening in other jurisdictions, and how zoning ordinances could help with that, especially when we're looking at properties that may have been abandoned or with that may be former hotels or motels, and also where that's getting in, becoming a barrier for actually the production of affordable housing. And clearly Lila Anna has experience from producing affordable housing as well as helping get people placed. So she will probably want to just say more than my simplified explanation of what we want to see our committee look at. And if there's anybody who feels that they wanted to be on our committee and had not availed themselves of the opportunity to participate with us, we welcome as many folks as possible to help us with this.
And the only thing that I'll add to Sue's pretty concise explanation is, so, we've kind of charged the committee and anyone else to bring us these best practices or these projects that we're seeing in other cities and other areas. I think a couple of meetings ago, we talked about Charlotte and their renovation of motels to become single-use apartments. So the idea of really kind of digging into, we bring these projects to the city, what would be stopping us other than funding? And what changes are going to have to be made to incorporate those specialized projects into a larger affordable housing plan? So, like specifically, I don't know if you all remember or not, but it was the reuse of abandoned motels. So some of the zoning issues, I hate the word issue because that's negative. I think it's more of an education and kind of identifying what's in place and what fine tuning needs to be made.
Awesome. I will say, I think Regina Williams is clocked on now, and I think she would like to be on your committee. So I'll make sure you guys have Regina on there. If anybody else wants to join Sue and Lila Anna for legal and zoning with, I think either Krista or Lee, I don't know who the staff support is, but we'll make sure that you guys get looped into that meeting. Is Thursday at, is it 2:30? I remember
2:30. And if you're interested, I'll get you the Zoom link. So please just let me know. You can even put your email on the chat, and I'll get that forwarded to you.
I know one other thing that was raised to me, Sue and Lila Anna, I think Tanya raised this a couple times, and then some other folks I've been working with in the community have raised it, is just understanding, I guess, the authority mechanism for apartments that may not be housing authority owned, but they're under Section 8, or they might be tax credit. And I think for the community's sake, they are confused as to if there is a issue regarding the maintenance of the property, or there's an issue regarding sewer and other things. Who do they go to? I think a lot of folks want to always go to Ms. Matthews and her team, but it's not that's not always the regulatory or authority person. So we can maybe understand that process and then be able to figure out, even maybe in partnership with the partnerships and education group, making sure that information is available so that people know who do you go to as a tenant when you have some of these concerns.
That would be great. I'm wondering if, and this may be something that the Columbia Housing Authority has, or it may be a hybrid that the State Housing Finance Authority and the Columbia Housing Authority has. But it would be wonderful to have an inventory of the properties that are either accepting vouchers. And I realize if it's an individual, it would be really, really hard for us to be able to have all of those, but especially for those that might be tax credit or might be a larger property, so that we know what the properties are. So if we were to put something like this together, as far as what your rights are and who you would complain to, or we would be able to make sure. Columbia to be able to utilize.
Awesome. And I do think that Brian has at least some of that already, because I know he and I have shared some emails regarding that. So we might could just get with him on that. Brian, you're like our go-to person on a lot of things.
I figured Brian might have some of that.
Yeah. So you may remember when I was speaking about, I think it was our meeting in August, trying to get an estimate of the current inventory. So there's certainly the ability to put together some sort of resource that would say, all right, here's the list of tax credit properties. Here's the list of Columbia housing properties. Here's the list of other subsidized properties. Certainly, as you know, tax credit properties are required by law to accept vouchers. Certainly a directory of private landlords who are willing to do that, I think would certainly be something that could be very useful.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. All right. Thank you. So guys, anybody have any questions or feedback for the Legal and Zoning Committee subcommittee?
Yes, I like when he said the directory idea, because definitely when they give you your lease to sign, you do get a list of rights and responsibilities, but it is so large, and I don't think many residents take the time out to actually read that paperwork. So having it in a form that will be, more compound and more straight to the point, like you said, like he was saying just now, I think that would be much better for residents to be able to read it and understand it and know exactly where they're calling or where they're going to when they need those resources.
All right. Thank you, Tanya. Anybody else questions or feedback for the Legal and Zoning Committee? All right. Thank you, guys. And anybody wants to join them, make sure they have your information so you can join the meeting on Thursday. All right. Jennifer, for partnerships.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. So for the last few months, Partnership and Education Committee have been meeting jointly because we felt like there was just such overlap and the ability to leverage the work of the two committees. So I'm actually going to ask Brenna, who is chair of education, to report for both of us because she's done a great job compiling all of our notes. But then just want to give a special thank you to Lee, who's our staff support, who's been adding a lot of really deep value to the work as well. So just wanted to do that.
Thank you, Jennifer. Brenna?
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. So we, Partnership and Education, have been meeting for about the past 3 months now, I think, kind of joined together. And we last met last Tuesday and came up with kind of categories for our outreach. We have 8 categories that we're hoping to start working with, divided between us, looking at political developers, so city and county councils, business and community partners, state and local housing agencies, funders and real estate partners, neighborhood associations, potential home buyers and new renters, community neighborhood coalition groups, and then the media in partnership with the PR department. And we're looking at starting a kind of success story model, working with some people who have gone through affordable housing to really share their success stories so we can get that out on social media, start promoting the positive side of affordable housing. And we're looking at the goals of our outreach are to demonstrate the worth and the positive side of affordable housing and to debunk the myths and work with opposition. So we're trying to come up with a kind of one-page information with goals of kind of every committee that we're working with, just a goal for each committee, and then maybe a type of slogan. So our definition is great. It's a little long, so coming up with something that's a little bit shorter for like social media campaigns and things like that. And then to really work on the overall task force goals and start getting that out to communities and partners as fast as we can.
Awesome. Brenna, I saw Mary Louise put in the chat, add the local chamber to your list.
We have them on there. They fall under the first and second categories of our outreach plan.
Okay, great. All right. Anybody have any questions or feedback for Brenna and Jennifer on the Public Education and the Awareness Committee?
And we have joint meetings monthly. If anyone would like to join, I can send out the information for that as well.
So Brenna, let me ask this. So, because I think you guys got a lot in there. What's the next steps for you guys?
I think our next step is to come up with, we have a goal of the partnership and education outreach that we want to start conducting as fast as possible. I think our first steps are getting that one pager kind of complete. So as we all go out, we're all saying the same types of information to the groups. We talked about the partnership, reaching more out to the business side. So really working with the financing, zoning, legal committees to see what their kind of goals and objectives are a little bit. And then the education and awareness will work with accessibility and some of these other groups to really hone in on what's most important to the individuals in the neighborhoods. And get this like one page information sheet out so people can kind of see the overall goals and objectives that we're working on and try to add to that.
Do you guys have, I know the media part will be done, but do you have an idea of already what the data would be on that one pager? Or are y'all working on that now?
We're working on that now. I'm getting a draft over to Jennifer this week.
Okay, cool. Any other questions for Brenna or Jennifer? All righty. Okay, so right now I'm just going to open it for open discussion. We've heard from all of our committees. I think work is moving forward. I think jointly, next steps really is going to be based on what I've heard is Erica and I will, well, I say Erica and I, really Erica will work on the minutes from here and pulling it also together into from our work from last month on the goal and the definition of affordable housing and what all the committees have laid out today. We will pull that together into a document. And then once we can pull that together and document, get it to everybody for additional input or feedback. And then if that has creating a buy-in for neighborhoods is an important task. Yes, Regina, you're right. So pull all that together, and then once we're able to pull that together, we can then give an interim report to City Council and County Council. I don't think Ms. Teresa was able to join us. Oh, yeah, she is. Allison, do you want to add anything? I figured next steps would be we'll take this document. You and I can present it to our respective councils and get any feedback or questions that they have, and then start compiling up with the action items and goals for 2021.
I think that's perfect. Thank you. Yes.
So I think that's kind of where we are, but I'm opening it up for discussion. If anybody thinks there's something missing there, is there another action item that you guys would like to see elevated as we compile this report and 2020 action items or 2021 action items? Okay. Seeing none. Okay, so I think we're doing really good. I mean, I think we've got some great information. So my goal would be, and Erica, if you will calendar this for me, our goal will be to get this one pager or this information that we're talking about to you guys by the end of this month. So, and then we can have everybody kind of take a look at it, and then the report backs next month, we'll finalize that. And so that Allison and I have something to take to our colleagues. So with that said, announcements. Ms. Matthews, I think you've got a lot going on, but do you want to make any announcements on where you are?
Yes, I'd like to invite all of you, as well as anybody that you know might own property in Richland County, in the city of Columbia, of course, to partner with us on becoming a landlord for our Housing Choice Voucher Program. We have a virtual meeting that's scheduled for Monday at 6 p.m. And the information is on our website about how you register. I can also get the information out to everybody on the call as well. That way you'll have it in your inbox and can easily access it. But we're looking for landlords. Columbia Housing currently has an allocation of $30 million a year that comes directly from congressional appropriations from HUD. And so we partner right now with a little over 1,000 landlords in the community. We're looking to partner with more landlords. We have the opportunity to put more people in an affordable housing place. And so we want to be able to maximize those resources because, when we receive federal funds, if we don't use them, we lose them. And so we certainly don't want to lose any of our available resources that we have to be able to provide more housing for people in the community. So just let us know, share it with anybody. It could be mom and pop, it could be multifamily landlords, but just we need more landlords. Thank you.
Anybody else have any announcements that they want to share or any projects that you're working on? And Jeff, y'all have something coming up.
We do. We have our Night of Promise gala, and that's happening virtually, a way for us to get with all of our volunteers as our congregations are unable to shelter our families. We had to be really creative in getting them involved and still being able to volunteer and help support our families. So we're really focused on finding creative housing solutions and sheltering options, but also providing stability support for the children in these households that are having some of these challenges. So, working really hard with that now and getting our volunteers involved is really the main thing, because we have a lot. So want to find them ways to get involved safely.
Jeff, is this a fundraiser? Or?
Yes, it is. It is our Night of Promise. It is a fundraiser. It is a virtual gala. We generally have it every year in person, of course, but we're unable to have it last year, and we're doing it virtually this year. So brand new for everyone, but I'm really excited, thankful that you're a part to be able to talk about affordable housing and some of our needs there, but also excited for our congregations in the districts they represent to learn a lot more about affordable housing and some of what we're trying to do in our communities. As we try to establish these neighborhoods, I think, of options for affordable housing where our churches are, trying to create these pockets of affordable housing there for our families. So the more I think we can educate, of course, being a part of that subcommittee, the more that we can educate our community on the need, and for them to be able to see our families and put a face and a name to our families. I think our volunteers can truly start to understand why it's so important that we have affordable housing in our communities. And that's kind of what we're working on now is the education piece within our congregations, and then for them to honestly be able to find housing options for us to start to plant the seed now, for them to help us find affordable housing options for our families in our program. So working on a few different things.
So if you send us the link, we'll make sure Erica gets it out to everybody and see how they might support the Night of Promise.
Thank you so much. I sure will.
Anybody else have anything, any announcements, anything they're working on?
Tamika, sorry, go ahead, Sue.
Lala, Anna, then Sue.
No, go ahead. I can wait.
So we have opened the application process for Myrtle Grove, which is our affordable housing development over on Waits Road. Those applications opened this past Friday. The application is available on our website, as well as when applications are received. There are 15 units and they are at 30, 50, and 60% AMI. They are not voucher driven. It is what I call the front end voucher, which means the rents are reduced based on income. So if you know of anybody who would like to submit an application, honestly, the best thing to do is just send them to our website and they can download it.
Well, and a question on that, does it have to be a family? Can a single person apply?
It is family. The funding was written based on having one child in custody, but understand that can be multi-generational. So it could be a grandparent with a child 18 or under.
Okay. And I'll just add that, so it just reminded me, and maybe this is something for the accessibility committee as well, is I've had probably in the last 4 weeks, 2 or 3 people who are single that have not been able to find housing because they don't have children. So I think that's another barrier that we don't think about, are folks who are not making enough and they can't afford affordable housing, and they don't qualify for certain programs because they don't have families. Okay, Sue, you had something?
The project that was initiated by the Columbia NAACP is now really moving forward. It's an eviction navigation project, and want to make sure people are familiar with it. They can contact the Columbia NAACP office, and the person will be partnered with a navigator. Our hope had been that when all the money started to get released for eviction protection to pay and get people caught up, that would be a big piece of it. That didn't last very long, so we're very excited and waiting to see when Richland County money will be released. And I've been Gloria, just so you'll know, I don't just stalk you. I've been stalking Richland County as well about their funding project with it, so that we can help get people the help they need. If they need further legal assistance, sometimes they will get sent to a pro bono attorney, or they will get forwarded to South Carolina Legal Services, and all in an effort to help keep people in their homes, as well as hopefully getting landlords the resources for their rent.
Awesome. Thank you, Sue. Anybody else? So I'll have a final comment, but Allison, I wanted to give you an opportunity to have the floor. If there's anything that you want to add just from the county's perspective, or your personal perspective on, you know, what we're doing and how important and where we're going from here.
Thank you, Tamika. Yes, so we've obviously had a little bit of changeover, kind of quite a bit of changeover on county council. So new folks are coming on, and I believe that some of those are also folks are excited about working on affordable housing. So it'll be nice to have colleagues who see this as a major issue in Richland County. That will just go a long way toward working with staff and other council members and getting those votes we need to get what we need passed. We're also seeing a little bit of changeover with staff. And so I'm looking for those folks on who are working on the staff side, just who are interested in champions, because again, when we know when people are passionate about this issue, it just moves the ball along so much better.
Thank you. Well, thank you. I'm glad to know that there, and I know a few of your new colleagues, and I know that is, but thank you for your commitment to this issue and continuing to work with us. I think that we're really at a really good place at trying to, with this task force and your leadership on the county and the work that we're doing at the city, I see us being able to really impact it. So thank you, Allison. We want to make sure that you know you're appreciated, and we know you can't make every single meeting, but we want to make sure that we say publicly how appreciative we are of you and your leadership here.
Thank you. And I'll just add, I'm sorry I didn't speak up before, but you know, I was on a neighborhood meeting last night, and one of the, people in the neighborhoods are, there's a narrative around if there are multifamily housing, density requirements, those sorts of things, and just lots of misperceptions about, the people's needs, like the benefits to communities for having density. And so I love being on the committee that I'm on, just thinking about how we're educating the public, because we really need to be able to go into these meetings with, well-meaning people who have kind of an instinctive reflex to push back on density, to push back on multifamily units, just because historically they have been I think, maligned. So, I was sitting there with my housing notebook in my lap and just listening to people talk and thinking, I have got to be able to be a better spokesperson for this, because this mythology is perpetuating. So that's just from a personal experience that I had in the past 24 hours.
Thank you. Well, we appreciate you sharing that. Anybody else? I see our city manager has jumped on, and I thank Ms. Wilson for being here again, and see if you have anything, Teresa, or.
I don't, Ms. Devine. I'm sorry I couldn't jump on before now. Y'all are so efficient. You're already probably wrapping up, but I'm kind of double booked as usual. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Staff is here and done a good job, but we appreciate it. We know you have a lot going on.
Yes.
So with that said, we have pretty much finished our work for today. I did want to, I guess my closing comments is, I really appreciate all of you. This is something that has been an issue for me for many years, and several of you have reached out to me, so I want to thank you for reaching out and saying how much you appreciate this work and the thoughtful manner we're going into this. I will tell you that we are unfortunately or fortunately going into campaign season, and I raised this only because a couple of you have called me offline about affordable housing, and I want you to know that my pledge is that the work that we do in this committee, this task force, will not be politicized. It will not be derailed or used either by myself or anybody else. So I just want you to have that commitment and pledge from me. This work is personal to me. I think we have amazing task force with great expertise. And in my years on city council, nobody has taken the leadership to pull a group like this together in order to get real solutions. And so I'm honored that you guys took my call or answered my email to be willing to serve, because I think that we are going to get to the point where we are really going to be a leader, not just for South Carolina, but nationally, because this is a national issue. It's not an easy issue. And unfortunately, we have even elected officials who now want to say that they think this is important, but when they could stand up and agree to have affordable housing within their communities, they didn't want to support it. So I think that, to Allison's point, the narrative is the first job that we have, but this expertise that we have on this committee will allow that narrative to be pushed back with real facts and data and solutions. So with that, I just want you guys to know how much I appreciate your time, because I know you are all so busy and you could be doing so many other things, but this is important work. And with the resources that we have, with the staff support that we have, and with the knowledge, I know that we're going to see solutions. So last thing I'll say is, the last 2 weeks I've had maybe 4 or 5 meetings with affordable housing developers who were not looking at Columbia, but are now looking at Columbia and Richland County. Allison, I actually connected one with one of your colleagues, Allison, for a project that he's doing in the unincorporated area. But we have developers who are looking at this city in this region that were not doing it before. And I think because they do see the solutions that are bringing forward. So I'm excited. We got to stay the course. We know the education piece will be a big piece. It won't be easy. But I think that the information that we're going to provide will make this issue not just important to those of us who are sitting around this table, but will make it important to our whole community. So with that said, our next meeting, Erica has put down, is April 13th, 2021. We will get you the information that you guys need to continue the committee work in the interim. And I would ask that you do try and get your committees, meet with your committees before the 13th, so that we can have some finality to some of the goals for 2021. And if there is anybody who is not on a committee and you want to be on one, or you're on one and you heard something today that makes you think, I want to be on another one, because I like what they're doing, please reach out to Erica or myself, and we'll make sure that we tap you into the committee. So with that said, thank you so much. We are adjourned. Enjoy the beautiful day, and we will see you guys in April next. Well, it'll be spring by then, so we'll see you guys in a few weeks.